Yo, 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 what's going on? It's the NRW, where nerds rule the world. It's your boy, Kuya P, aka Patrick Michael Strange. And today we are going to be talking all about an amazing documentary that's going to be dropping on Paramount Plus on November 15th. It's called Ascension, and we are going to have some of the amazing filmmakers behind it. I'm talking about Jessica Kingdon, the director, editor, cinematographer, as well as producer Kyra Simon Kennedy and Nathan Truesdell, who is also a cinematographer on the project as well. But before we do that, check out right now the trailer for Ascension.
一家外资企业。
我们的话不知道关了，不知道部门随便挑随便选。
说废话，把你卖掉！
回去。
Boom, there you go. The trailer for Ascension dropping on Paramount Plus on November 15th. And as I said before, I have some special guests today. I have Jessica Kingdon, the director, editor, and cinematographer for Ascension, as well as Kyra Simon Kennedy, one of the producers, as well as other producer and cinematographer, Nathan Truesdell. I'm going to shoot off air horns right now because I'm super excited. It's in post, so I don't deafen you guys, but I just want to give you all your flowers for putting together this important documentary that touches on so many issues and that's so important for today. Thank you again, Kyra Simon Kennedy, Jessica Kingdon, as well as Nathan Truesdell. I don't know why I said your full names. I could have just said the first names, but it's a pleasure. Thank you all so much.
Thanks for having us.
Thank you.
Definitely. So let's talk about how it all started from the beginning. I know it's been hyped and it's shown at the very beginning that you, Jessica, found this quote from your great-grandfather, Zhang Zi. I'm not sure if I'm pronouncing that correctly. I do apologize if I didn't. But just how this germination of an idea came into fruition into making this film.
The poem actually came at the very end. It was sort of an unexpected thing that happened where, first I'll start from the beginning in terms of how I started to make this film. Initially, I was interested in giving viewers a visceral feel of different types of economies that power our modern world as we live and understand it today in our like technologically dependent lifestyles. So the film is bookended at the beginning at a low-wage labor market where workers are looking for jobs at factories like Foxconn and Huawei. Foxconn making iPhones. So all these sort of familiar tech companies. And then the very end is actually the site of a rare earth mineral mine. And rare earths are what are used to make technology devices like smartphones and laptops. So these sort of like invisible behind the scenes sites that, power these economies. And then the poem itself also bookmarks the film, which was written over 100 years ago by my great-grandfather, who I have never met. But the way that I found him, or the way I found these poems, was because I was going to a city called Changsha in Hunan province, and I mentioned this to my mom. I was going there to film at an air conditioning factory for the film, and she was like, "Oh, that's where your grandfather and your great-grandfather are from." And I was like, "What? I had no idea. Like, how did I not know this?" And I mentioned this to Kyra, and because she works with artist residencies all over China, she knew a historian there who she put me in touch with. He was able to find living relatives of mine when I went and visited, because my great-grandfather was this well-known poet at the time. He was easily able to track them down. And on a day's notice, a bunch of like my relatives that I didn't know that I had brought my great grandfather's poetry to me from a museum where it was preserved.
Oh,
And it was
wow.
really moving and shocking. I thought I was going to get to keep one of the books, but I wasn't because it lived in the museum. And then, fast forward 6 months later, when we're finishing the edit of the film, or a year later, we were brainstorming different titles. And a lot of them I really liked, but none of them were sticking for whatever reason. And Kira was like, why don't you just go back and look at those poems? Maybe something will inspire you. And I was like, oh, I don't know if that's going to happen. But one of the translations of the poems was called Ascension. And it was about the paradox of progress, which is actually what this film is also about. So even though the film was written over 100 years ago, totally different context, there were still a lot of parallels that rang true. And that's how we have it.
Oh my gosh, that is amazing. Wow. Like I'm a big history guy. I love documentaries. That's why what also attracted me to this film. And that's so fascinating. And just as a filmmaker as well, that's just so amazing timing and situational how that happened. All right, so you're working on this film already. How did you get the ball rolling and to bring in Kira and David as fellow producers to make this happen? Can you just tell me about the process of just putting this together? This hit me in a lot of different ways. It was as a first generation immigrant. My mother came over from the Philippines, military family, and as a filmmaker as well that wants to entertain and educate. One of my scariest things is, again, I'm attracted to documentaries, but I'm afraid of it as a filmmaker because it speaks so many truths. I just doing this film, making this film happen, to throw it to Kira and David to speak on producing just this fascinating film.
We originally met when Jessica was working on a short film, Commodity City, which if you haven't seen it, it's online, just check that out. It's a phenomenal 10-minute piece that is about the world's largest wholesale market, which is outside of Shanghai in a city called Yiwu. And Jessica had already filmed this beautiful like day in the life of this market around all the people who are kind of the in-between merchants between all the factories in the world and really the dollar stores everywhere. Like every single widget we have probably came through this place. And so when I came on board, it was really just a matter of finding out how else we can find people to support this kind of filmmaking. And actually, one of the first things that we applied for was a short film editing residency at Camden, which is actually where Nathan and Jessica first met.
Yeah, 5 years ago, when I was working on Commodity City, Nate was there with a different film of his, and that's where we first met.
Wow.
And I was able to collaborate on the ground with Jess in both the shooting and the editing. And yeah, it was quite an experience to, I had never been to China before, so it was very exciting to go on this adventure that we hope the film takes you on as well.
Awesome.
And yeah, Nate and I co-shot this movie together, and he works on a TV show, which some of you might have heard, called How To with John Wilson, where he's the camera department head. And so usually for him, when he's working on movies as a cinematographer, he kind of takes on the look of what the director is going for. So I really noticed how he was able to kind of like seamlessly between projects, like change how he shoots based off of what the directives of the film require. So he was really able to like embody my vision when we were shooting together. So kind of like pass the camera off seamlessly.
Oh yeah, and wow, that's amazing because the shot selection, just the flow, everything. So I can see why y'all won so many awards and should continue to win awards. It's so beautiful. It just hits different, if you will, compared to other documentaries I've seen. So again, like I said, I'm a first generation immigrant, very aware of like what life is in the Philippines, but I grew up Filipino American here in the States. So seeing kind of like this breakdown, and for you, Jessica, being a Chinese American and just seeing that, what was it for you to tell this story? Because it hurt in a way. I'm not gonna lie, even though that, it's just kind of just showing all this different. I was just in my feelings in some certain places and didn't know why. But then I do know why. It's hard. So can you just talk on that for you? Back to you, Jessica. Just why you wanted to do this and kind of tell this story. And then for you as well, Kira and David, in being involved with the project.
It's Nathan, not David.
Oh, I'm sorry. My apologies.
It sounds similar, 2 syllables. Yeah, I think with this film, I was really trying to hold space for 2 truths at once, which I think that's probably what you're talking about when you're saying you had a lot of like hard feelings and you weren't sure why. When I'm watching these things and when I was there in person experiencing them, I also had a lot of mixed feelings, intense emotions. And even though the film is filmed in this observational lens, where there's no exposition and there's no dialogue or interviews, I think that there's still a lot of room for emotion. And I think that the film is sort of challenging viewers to sit with these complicated feelings without giving an easy answer as to what we're supposed to think or feel. And so when I say 2 truths at once, I mean, there's the truth of progress, where a lot of China's economic boom or so-called economic miracle of the past few decades has created millions of jobs for people, lifted people out of poverty, but at the same time led to exploitation and income inequality and pollution. So all of these good things and all of these bad things kind of living simultaneously together. And I felt like my job going there as a filmmaker was to go with as little judgment as possible and sort of just to allow these images to flow through me almost as a neutral spectator, as neutral as one can be. And so I think this film for a lot of people really is a Rorschach test when they see China. China means so many things to so many different people. So I was sort of just trying to act as a conduit for that.
Awesome. And for you, Kira, and again, Nathan, my apologies.
No problem.
Yeah, I mean, I think the film really takes you on a roller coaster of emotions, and I think exactly what Jessica was saying, this tension of like everyone in it and all of us too need to believe that what we're doing is going to work and it's going to be better and all of this makes sense. And some of us have a lot more freedom in the jobs we can do and the places we can go, and depending on what passwords we have and where we were born and what our parents did, like that gives us a lot of different, situations. And I think what's happening in China and all the places we filmed, everyone's trying to do the best they can in the situation they're in. But as an objective observer, we know that some of these things aren't going to work the way people want. And that's, to me, the darkest part, because, you're recruiting for a job to go work at a phone factory and you're going to be assembling things that someone else is going to use. And depending on whether you're someone who has an iPhone or makes an iPhone, it just means something so different. And we never see the behind the scenes of all of this. It's very specifically put out of our sights. And, Apple doesn't want us thinking about this kind of stuff. And it's really hard for us to go through life if we're thinking about every single person that touched every single thing and what all those people wanted and why they were doing it. And I think this film really kind of puts you in that in a way that it's been so amazing to hear people walking out of having just seen it, talking about really abstract concepts. They're talking about capitalism. They're talking about the meaning of work. They're talking about just, stuff, like things that are really intangible, and it's giving people a way into these really hard conversations that it's been so phenomenal to see.
And I think in people having those conversations, I think the film makes people reflect back on their own selves. Like we've always talked about, what would this, if we followed the same ideas and made this film in the same way, what would it look like if we made it in America or in any other country? So I think a lot of people respond to it in a way where they can see themselves in it, or even feel responsible for portions of it,
Yeah, I think some of the sadness comes from feeling like it's a search for agency under global capitalism. What is that possible? Is there any way to opt out of this system? Whether you're a laborer or a consumer, we're all under the same interconnected system, and that's what the film's trying to show.
Oh yeah. Oh, Again, yeah, it hit me in so many ways, and I can't wait to share this in with the rest of my family and friends and colleagues. I think it should be required viewing for kids in schools. Well, maybe high school. A little bit, because there are the sex dolls. So a little bit older, but yeah, but I just definitely think they could learn a lot about seeing how society is, because it's very telling. What was I actually know filming this? You had so much amazing access. Can you just tell me about like the production aspect of making these connections to go film all these different sequences at these different factories, to illustrate this message that you're telling in the story? What was that like in gaining that access and working with the Chinese government to allow that? Did you have to get a lot of clearances for that information video?
We went as a very small team. It was usually only just three of us at a single time in one location. And we worked with a lot of fixers and field producers in China who helped us negotiate access to these different locations. And we went under a tourist visa. So if we went like with a much bigger crew, with more equipment and stuff like that, I'm sure we wouldn't have been able to like kind of fly by like underground by the seat of our pants the way we did.
It was also really sort of a patient game. Maggie and all of the other producers we worked with, a lot of it was just kind of like, you ask 20 places and one maybe will say yes.
Or like 200 places.
Yeah.
And one will say yes. Sometimes it was one out of hundreds.
Wow.
And so it was, and everyone who agreed to be in the film knew exactly what we were doing. And I think that's also something that's interesting to think about, is we didn't do this in a guerrilla expose type way at all. We really were very straightforward. Like, we're filming a film, like it's about the economy, it's about work, it's about how like life in China today. And a lot of places didn't necessarily get it at first. There's a few places who were really taken aback that there was no talking head, no interviewer on camera, no host. But yeah, it was really just making sure that everyone was okay with what was going on, and just, if people said no, find another place.
Yeah.
And we would get an immediate no from a lot of places, but then the places that said yes, it was a very adamant yes. Like, come check it out.
Oh, awesome.
Yeah.
And it's so raw. Like you, what you see is what you see. It's not, you didn't try to, change the, like, some other documentaries can try to influence you in a way. It's there and just its presentation. So fascinating.
We weren't filming for the most part in any politically sensitive locations or storylines. So that's also why we were able to do this the way that we did.
Amazing. And once you were, you've already toured the world with this a bit and won so many awards. Again, well deserved. What was did you screen it in China yet? And what was that reception like at all?
We haven't been able to screen it publicly yet. I mean, I hope to soon. We're sort of waiting on our distributor to work with them to see if that's possible. But we've been able to show it, to friends and family and people that we worked with in China. And
okay, that's what was going to be my question. Yeah, involved there.
Like a few dozen people maybe have seen it, and everyone's actually reacted pretty positively. I think it's shown people in China different aspects of the country that they don't know about, since a lot of these places are so specialized as well. And like I was just saying, I've been to more places in China now than anywhere else in the world because of this film, because it does take place. It takes place in 51. We shot in 51 locations, and I've been to another country where I've been to 51 locations, I don't think. So yeah, I think it shows people even in China, like different parts of the country.
Amazing. So I guess one of my other questions is, as a filmmaker myself as well, what would you say to other filmmakers, some of the lessons learned that you gained while putting this together, other documentarians? Obviously submit to everybody. You're probably going to get a lot of no's, like it is for acting, but you'll get that one yes. What are some of the lessons learned doing this project?
Definitely, like, don't make the thing that you think other people will want to see. Because it's easy to fall into that trap of seeing your work through the eyes of somebody else who's judging it and trying to guess what formula it is you're supposed to be doing, because people really are looking for something that only you can make. And like, unfortunately, only you can figure that out, which is a really hard thing to do. But yeah, I think like to take that risk of just being like finding the most unique expression of whatever it is that you want to do is what I learned.
And I'd say this, especially for young filmmakers starting out, there's so many people who want to help. There's so many great grants. I mean, shout out to like Firelight and Chicken and Egg and all these nonprofits that, you know, helped us with grants early on. There's artist residencies for filmmakers and for editors. Like a lot of it starting out, that's really kind of the very beginning, you know, just had this idea. And then we were just kind of like, all right, who can help make this? And we got really lucky that it worked out, but also there's so many more opportunities out there to support work that I think a lot of people don't know about. So yeah, definitely just Google like grants for film and you'll find a lot of stuff out there.
It's true. Like, as much as I was saying this like expression of individualism, I don't think I would have been able to do it both without supportive producers who like believed in the vision even when it wasn't super clear, but also like these organizations and grants, like Kira was saying, Chicken and Egg, Firelight, Film Independent Lab, just yeah, different types of labs and grants, because that gives you like a larger community of other makers that are doing things and allows you to be like less precious about your own work and more able to like be more generous about giving feedback to other people's work and just feeling less alone in the process. So yeah.
Awesome.
Yeah, at the end of the day, it's just about believing in your vision and sticking with it and understanding that sometimes getting from A to B is not going to be a straight path, and B might actually turn into C at some point, if that makes sense.
Definitely. Awesome.
Yeah.
So, man, again, thank you all for just this input about this amazing film that I can't wait for people to see. Everybody's coming November 15th on Paramount Plus. Did I get that right? November 15th? Yes. Please check it out. Jessica, Kira, Nathan. Again, I'm now a fan. What you did, pulled off. It was one of those documentaries. I was plugged in. My eyes were glued the entire time. It was shot so amazingly well, and you just allowed the what you shot to just tell the story. So I have to ask this question because you've got a fan in me, and then hopefully in some of my other viewers. What's the next project? You always know that's gonna happen after you do an amazing piece of work. You win these awards. What's the next project? Can you all talk individually what y'all have planned up next, if you can talk about it?
Well, for me, I'm sort of trying to take my time and really, instead of jumping into something quickly, allowing myself like time and space to develop the next project, but probably something along these similar themes, maybe in a different part of the world. I'm not sure yet, but I know you're working on a lot of different.
Yeah, I'm producing a lot of other projects, but there's two that we can talk about publicly because we're taking part in only in New York at Doc NYC next week. And one is a beautiful documentary by Shelley Chang-Clotron, who's doing a story about the untold history of all the Chinese workers who built the railroad in the U.S.
Oh, wow.
Continental Railroad was mostly built by workers who were brought over from China and have been entirely written out of history, and just been doing amazing work, really kind of rebuilding that narrative. And also with a young filmmaker in China named Jie Yang, who's been making the most amazing, fascinating verite film about her family's worm farm in southern China. And that really takes you into a whole world of edible bugs. And so, yeah, those are the next two things I'm working on right now.
Awesome.
I just finished working on season 2 of How To with John Wilson, so I'm just enjoying the ride at this moment.
I love
See what
it.
comes next.
Awesome. Well, again, you have a fan in me. I'm all about checking all the next projects, and again, seeing this again. Very last question, because I am the nerd with the Nerds Rule the World NRW. So kind of two questions in one, really. Are you all card carrying nerds, or if not, would you say you're a nerd about something? That's the first question. Would you say you're a card carrying nerd or a nerd about something?
Full on nerd.
Full on nerd.
I love it.
We make documentaries.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We celebrate that nerddom. Okay, so if y'all had to give a nerd TED style talk on anything, what would that be? We can't say documentaries. We obviously know you're amazing with filmmaking. Just what would that be? What are you nerdy about?
I was gonna say you're nerdy about different like archival documentaries.
You said no,
Yeah, yeah, we can't talk about
Music
documentaries.
videos. He's nerdy about YouTube.
YouTube. Okay. What about you, Jessica?
I don't know what I'm nerdy about. I kind of go down like certain holes of things, but there's not a specific thing I'm nerdy about. I'm just like awkward, maybe.
What's bugs?
Bugs.
Yeah, I do love bugs.
There we go. What about you, Kira?
Oh, I'm really into what am I very nerdy about? I'm really into like linguistics, like etymology, and just like very yeah, I could go on forever about like translation and
History.
yeah. Yes, obscure language things.
All right, awesome.
Expressions that are in English that come from Chinese that people don't know about.
All right, well, I love it because nerds rule the world. You are ruling with this amazing documentary. For the people that are listening via audio, maybe driving in the car and playing this, listening to this interview, how can they see Ascension? Just any links or anything we want to throw at people before we sign off.
We have a website, ascensiondocumentary.com, and it's going to be on Paramount Plus on November 15th.
There we go. I love it. Ascensiondocumentary.com, I think, as well as the website.
And the Instagram is Ascension Documentary.
There we go. Awesome. Jessica Kingdon, Kira Simon Kennedy, Nathan Truesdell, Kuya P, NRW, Nerds Rule the World. Thank you so much all for your time. Thank you for this amazing documentary that I can't wait to share with my family and friends and colleagues because it's so important. Again, this is an amazing piece of art and bravo.
Thank you
Out of
so
here,
much.
NRW, Nerds Rule the World.
Great to talk to you.
So we